This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, January the 11th, 2022, episode 365. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome into another edition of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on various social media platforms by visiting my website, nickcraig.net. You can also check out my daily political antics and rantings by visiting nickcraig.com and downloading the Wilmington's Morning News podcast. And of course, arguably the most important website on the internet, infectionpodcast.com. Brian, it's funny, 365 shows. That would be if we did a show every day for a full year. And that coincides, actually, funny enough, coincides with 7 full years of the show, which will be next week. We started January the 20th, 2015. So pretty funny how that all
who did think 7 years later, no more H1Z1. Really?
I mean, that's an understatement, but yeah. Yeah, I live
I mean, the company's
away.
Practically gone too, but
yep.
But yeah, a lot of changes. Well, first of all, hey, if you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab and Parlor, and whatever that new one is to Getter, I created an account on
You're on Getter. Okay, great.
I created an account, yeah. So, but I followed people, but I haven't seen. I followed you. That's the only like non, person I don't.
I mean, I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah, everyone else was whatever their suggestions were, and then I saw you on there, so you were my next real content.
I appreciate that. I'll have to follow you back.
Yeah, no problem. But if you want to find us, as Nick said, just go to infectionpodcast.com. On the right-hand side, join our server on Discord. If you do that, it's a really nice free app. There's a web-based app. There's a mobile one. There's a desktop one. Very lightweight, and they seem to work very well. And if you want to get a notification, you can either subscribe to us on we have Discord. You could go on there. We do notifications every week, but also we have our Steam. And if you put a notification on there, sometimes it goes, I don't know, maybe it goes for other people, other places. We have our video forms of the podcast. That's BitChute, YouTube, Twitch, and DLive. And if you go on there, we do some of those live.
Bingo, boom,
and then we have others that we record after the fact and upload. So you can go check out those in the past. But also, if you're going to listen to it, just go to the lower right-hand side, pick out the platform and device that you want to use. And there's a lot of ways to listen, but those are all recorded and uploaded. So you won't be able to listen to those ones live. But if you are listening, I encourage you to go to the particular episode that you're going to be listening to and follow along, because we've got links and videos and everything that goes with everything that we discussed during the particular episode. So if you do that, that probably will help add to your experience. And then also we have the support in the support, infectionpodcast.com/support. There's a support menu option up top, and so your Prime gaming subs, everything that kind of comes through here. So
yes, and I do want to thank our friend Green Man Cartoon. You probably just heard hitting us up with the tier 1 resubscription here, 47 months. Thank you very much, Green Man. It is greatly appreciated. All right, Brian. Well, we've got a bunch of news to get into, but a couple of different things to start off. Mm-hmm. And I think I want to start off with E3, which is one of the largest conventions of the year that takes place. It's one of the big places where different developers and studios show up to announce their new projects. Bethesda has always had a big E3. They've been one of the most sought after. In recent years, companies like Sony and Microsoft have dipped out. Nintendo's been out of it for quite some time. But all in all, in terms of a large trade event, it was one of the largest in the video game industry. And unfortunately, once more, Brian, it is going to be all digital. Even after CES just wrapped up this past week in person in Las Vegas, E3 has announced that due to surging cases of COVID-19 2 years into the pandemic, and with over 75% of the population vaccinated, and somehow the highest case counts every single day, it's amazing how that works, that they're going to be moving to virtual only for this year's E3 press event and everything else, which I think is a big blow to the gaming industry.
Yeah. And I also think that this is something, I mean, this was like one of the big ones for a while. There was, I mean, a ton of announcements that came out of it. So I think for this, if they can't get a handle on this, I think once these things start coming back to being live and in person, it might change up the whole demographic of what we consider, the top dogs in the trade shows. And because it's changed since COVID started. I mean, some of these have just become shells and almost disappeared because of conflict with the various trade shows and things. I think for this, the ones that come back will be the ones that say, "All right, we're fine with everybody meeting." It'd be interesting to see if it changes where locations are. There's so much of them sitting here and pushing this off. Next year, I can't imagine them doing this again, or else these things are going to be dead. You have to have a track record, or else you lose all those repeat customers, the people that say, "Oh, well, I have a booth every year, so I'm going to go." Once you have 3 years in a row, they're not accounting for that in their finances anymore. They're not. It's like there's a lot of headaches that they're going to run into to try to get this ball rolling with budgets and everything else, because 3 years in, and with all the drastic changes the companies have made to their budgets based on COVID, I don't know that we'll have the same kind of, even if they took away COVID today, I don't know that next year we'd have the same ones. I think there's just too much up in the air, and it'll take years for these things to kind of settle down and have one probably be the big one again.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to note that there is the Summer Game Fest. Their website just popped up, summergamefest.com. They do say that it's returning in 2022. It does not indicate whether it's going to be in person. It doesn't really say.
It says see you in 2022, but who knows what that really means.
Exactly. So not sure precisely what that's going to be. It does indicate that it's going to be digital live streams, but I don't know if there's going to be any sort of in person or anything, even with just the, is there going to be a stage, and are people going to be doing the presentations and just no crowd? It is definitely going to be streamed, but how all that's going to go down is very interesting as we see this whole industry kind of erode away, Brian.
Yeah.
It's funny, though, because when you look at different industries, you see how they handle it very differently. The gaming industry seems to be constantly running with their tail between their legs with these events. And on the other side, you look at the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, which again just wrapped up earlier this week. I think it wrapped up either yesterday or not. Maybe it wrapped up yesterday. That just happened, and that was an in-person event that took place in Vegas. So, or maybe it was last week, whenever it was. But it's interesting to see how different groups and how different things are, and how different industries are going about handling these events. I think there's a lot to take away from that, but I think it's unfortunate. I love that you put in here. I read this article during the week. I saw it. I didn't have a chance to. I didn't throw it in the show notes, but an article over at PC Gamer by Frasher Brown, who I guess is doesn't agree with having fun or doing anything fun. He's got an article over at PC Gamer headlined, "E3 should never be in person again." What is your initial impression to just that headline, Brian? And then we'll get a little bit into the article.
Well, first of all, this is something that if you would have 5 years ago said, "Tell us what you think about E3," they said, they would have poured all over it. And it's what's so crazy to me is that they, just because they feel like they have to follow some sort of a uniform, let's never see anything negative about something that's doing something positive for what they view as positive for COVID, preventing COVID or whatever, is a great thing. And this is another example of that. They'll say anything is good as long as it fits their little thing that they're trying to push everybody to believe. They want to everybody believe that, okay, everything that's happening is great because, it's saving lives. Okay, well, is it? At what point is it not? They're so brainwashed into just agreeing with whatever follows that mantra that they'll say it's just so silly, because years ago they would have said the exact opposite, and the only thing that's different is the pandemic. Well, once that's once this is to the level of the flu, right? Because there's been previous pandemics, and those things are not things that we sit there and worry about every day anymore.
So I love this. So talking about it in the article, a couple paragraphs in, he says, so what's the appeal of an in-person E3? And obviously this individual either doesn't like to socialize or is just a loser. The expensive booths, well, that's on the companies, and companies market and spend money on advertising.
And the convention. So, I mean, that's the convention. They set the price on those booths.
Yeah. It's an industry event. So
it's so that you can have the event.
Yeah, exactly.
For a lot of the
because it costs a lot of money to rent out a fucking convention center. You don't just rent out a convention center for,
a whole square block of Seattle is not cheap.
Yeah, no, it's tens of thousands of dollars. It's a very, very expensive thing. Hundreds of thousands. I don't even know what it costs.
Yeah, I mean per room, per section. I mean you're just getting the whole thing. Yeah. Who knows how much they did? They could do a huge dollar amount. I'm not even going to guess what their convention fees for the whole place.
So the expensive booths, the massive competition for attendance. It's the same thing. So if under this thing, maybe we should get rid of concerts, Brian, because concerts are the same thing.
Because if everybody wants to go, that means you shouldn't do them, right?
Well, I bought tickets to the Foo Fighters
That's what
concert.
He's saying.
Yeah, I bought tickets to the Foo Fighter concert in Raleigh in the summer. That was very competitive. I had to sit in a queue and get it. It was competitive because a lot of people wanted to go. So maybe we need to get rid of concerts and movies and everything.
I know this is written by PC Gamer. The whole thing. This is the whole kind of gaming, trying to get a ticket. That's kind of a game to some people, like getting in there, getting access to everything. Like it's totally opposite of what they supposedly are saying. Going out and doing these in-person things that used to be part of what made you a gamer. Going and getting the name, these badges and all of this, and having the lanyards, just doing everything. Like that was part of being kind of a nerdy gamer. And now they're saying, oh, that was bad. Trying to be, someone who has this collectible or had that was able to make it to this convention or to do whatever. That used to be praised in our circle. And now they're sitting there saying it's a bad thing.
And the third is the travel costs, which, yes, I agree, can be a little bit expensive. And all of that is off-putting. This is my favorite part, Brian. For developers on a tight budget, which if you're on a tight budget and you're a developer, well, then you need to either team up with a bunch of other little developers or just don't go. It's
expensive
to
sit there and make games and not have a normal job.
Yeah. For developers on a tight budget or with disabilities, the previous E3s have been wheelchair accessible, but even travel can be challenged for a prospective exhibitor who suffers from chronic pain or other issues. It might not be an option. So if I'm understanding this jackass over at PC Gamer, the reason E3 should never be in person is because of disabled people. A very small portion of the public is the reason that you should not have the entire fucking convention. That's literally what this guy, this retard over at E3, over at PC Gamer is saying. Because of disabled people? What the hell is this guy talking about?
Well, look at the conventions that we've gone to. If you look at them, they were some of the most accessible. They've got elevators to every floor. They got people that will work with you. There's people going around in electric wheelchairs, push wheelchairs.
We've seen plenty of people in wheelchairs, and they don't seem to have a problem. They seem to love it.
Sitting there, going through this place. I just don't see how they could accommodate. The gaming community, especially today, has bent over backwards and gone even farther than that to try to appease people that have a struggle to get into the gaming community, especially if you go to the conventions. They've really embraced every kind of initial you can have. Like they've done everything for anyone that they feel is the word is marginalized. If they feel anybody's marginalized, they will embrace you and pull you in. It's just like
they'll give you your own special space right in the convention center.
You could even go, you have your own special area there. You can go up and, most of the talks are about that. I mean, come on, tell me. You're telling me that people that have anything that you consider special needs or that has any of this, that they've accommodated in every way possible, every way. It's silly to me that they're now bashing conventions, which they love. So
and the most ironic part in all of this, of course, being the fact that at E3, all of the press events, all of the announcements and everything are also live streamed. So even if you are somebody that has chronic pain, which whatever the hell that means, and you don't feel comfortable going, or you can't feasibly get there, and it is expensive. I mean, it's very expensive. Brian and I have come out of our pockets, probably combined at these shows. Brian, you and I are out combined total thousands of dollars for these conventions. Yep. It is expensive, but guess what? It also is too, Brian. A lot of freaking fun.
A lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, and not anywhere in this article by Fraser Brown over at PC Gamer does it mention anything about the people that have fun, the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands
that enjoy
people that enjoy it and make it their vacation, bring their kids, and have a great family. You know, we've seen, Brian, how many families have we seen? You've got the mother and father and a couple kids walking around the convention center. They're all having a grand old freaking time. And I guess, again, Fraser Brown over at PC Gamer just is incapable of having fun. He's from the UK, so maybe that explains a little bit. Just can't have any fun.
I want to read his his closing quote here.
Sure.
Because this is how he kind of wraps it all up. Gaming is now so distributed and complex. It doesn't seem that much more complex than it was 10 years ago. But hey, and it's no longer served well by a big centralized event. E3 has simply outlived its usefulness. It had a good run, at least, and I'm sure it'll kick around for a bit longer, even if it's not as relevant as it once was. You know, it's saying the name still does have weight. What's he talking about? The gaming is now so complex. What's more complex about gaming now? We have the ability to communicate with each other. We have message forums. We have chat for games. It's not complex. Like you have the easiest time playing and communicating online, especially in games, than you've ever had in your whole life. And you're telling me it's now so distributed and complex? It being distributed, our communications has brought everything together. It still makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And again, concerts, if we just take this guy's rationale, concerts should be no more because there's scarcity and things of that nature, and they're expensive. There should be no football games, no baseball games, no basketball games, nothing. You shouldn't be able to do anything that is fun or anything that has any sort of centralized location. Everything should be digital. And I guess this is all part of this projection here from individuals, Brian, that everything needs to be digital, and you don't want to travel to anything. By the way, this guy's never had to deal with scarcity of getting into an event. He works for PC Gamer. He can just contact the thing and say, hey, I work for PC Gamer, and then he can walk around and get special access to everything, not have to wait in any lines like anybody else, gets paid to go out there, gets paid to cover the event. This jackass doesn't know anything. And I normally, there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of PC Gamer, Brian, but Jesus, as of late, some of this stuff has been
tons
so
of opinion pieces.
Freaking, but here's the thing. I'm okay with an opinion piece, but
once in a while.
But it's not even, but an opinion piece should have at least I'm an opinion, my job is to be opinionated. I literally get paid to spew my opinion for 3 hours a day. But and I do this all the time. I ask people, I ask my bosses, I ask people that listen to my show. I want to make sure that when I'm giving my opinion on something, that I give the listener a full rounded explanation of what is going on and then my opinion. And that's exactly what this article is missing. It mentions none of the good things that come out of E3, none of the good networking opportunity. Can you imagine the amount of people that have received jobs from going to E3 as maybe a programmer and going up to a developer,
meeting
going
somebody,
up to a studio and shaking
card,
somebody's hand, getting their business card, and then potentially landing a job? Those are things that you don't do, Brian, in a Twitch chat when people are posting swastikas and try hard in the Twitch chat. You don't get that networking opportunity or ability. You don't get that when you have a virtual only event. And that's just one of the little things that happens at these events. So I just cannot wrap my head around this in any way, shape, or form. It's just so disingenuous. It's not a well-rounded explanation of what these events are, and it's a total takedown for no reason.
And I think what there really is about, I mean, you can have an opinion on it or not, but in my opinion, the vaccines are not working. I mean, you go look at statistics. Don't yell at me. And they're just trying to do everything they can to continue saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. We don't need to do these. We don't want to do these." The other things are bad, but I promise you, if the vaccines were successful and everyone who was vaccinated was not contracting the virus, that's what it's supposed to do, or prevent you from spreading it, right? If that were working, they'd be talking praises and saying nothing but, hey, you need to get out to these conventions. You need to be down there. It has nothing to do with what it is. It has everything to do with what they're trying to push on the economy and push on people. It's all central thinking, trying to get everybody to think the same thing. It's just crazy. I mean, that's what I read out of it. He's trying to get everybody to have a central mindset so you don't get so angry about things that you're missing out because of COVID.
Yeah, very unfortunate to see from PC Gamer. The article will be in the show notes if you want to muster up some time to read through. And again, being somebody that's attended a couple of these shows, I've had a very different experience that then comes across on this article, and to me it just seems like total BS. Yeah. So no in-person E3 this year, not surprising, but hopefully we'll still get some big announcements coming out of it. This was an interesting story, Brian. This made some national news here this morning. We talked about Pokemon Go. Haven't talked about it in quite some time. And a Los Angeles County police officer is getting fired for ignoring a robbery call so that he could play Pokemon Go. Now, this happened all the way back in 2017, which obviously was a very different time. It's when two officers were on foot patrol, and during their patrol, they received a call for backup to handle an active robbery with multiple suspects at a nearby mall. But instead of coming to help, they left the scene with their sergeant. When their sergeant asked them about their failure to respond to the call, they claimed that they hadn't heard it because there was a lot of music and it was really loud in the park where they were patrolling. The sergeant let it drop at first, but then soon reconsidered that this was a more serious situation than emulating Pokemon Go on your PC after all. He decided to take a look at the digital in-car video system, which recorded the officers' actions while they were in their vehicle. And that's where they were very wrong for the Pokemon cops. The video revealed that they were, in fact, parked very close to the mall where the robbery call came in, and that they not only heard the call, but discussed whether or not they should answer it. And then they radioed in to say that they were at a different location to just not respond to the call for backup. And it turns out, well, Brian, they were playing Pokemon Go. A Snorlax appeared, which was a sought-after Pokemon in the game, and they spent about 20 minutes driving around L.A. talking about Pokemon and pursuing the Snorlax, during which time a Tajik also appeared, and after catching the Snorlax, they agreed to go after the next object as well. So...
Oh, well.
So the 2017 was a very different time. But I mean, it's not funny, but it is kind of funny that two guys are now going to get fired for an incident that occurred in April of 2017 over Pokemon.
Yeah, and it's all well deserved, but once you got to think they're hitting call after call after call. I mean, they're numb to it. It's just another thing to them. Let's say, let's go do this instead. It's not a person's life anymore once you're so numb to sitting there and dealing with it. I mean, you got to think how much they have in LA. Tons and tons of that. Every day robberies.
When I first read the headline, I assumed it was a recent story, and my initial impression was, well, this is a good thing. They don't want police to respond to anything, so the police are instead playing Pokemon Go. But then once I realized it was 2017, it changed.
Yeah, they're supposed to go everywhere.
But Green Bay Cartoons in the chat says, but they got the Snorlax, so who's the real winner? Well, I'd make the argument that they're probably the real winner because, well, they got the Snorlax.
They got it on their account now, right? There you go.
But yeah, I mean, that's all. They'll have to go put their account on eBay because they're going to lose their pension and their job.
They got the Snorlax. So so we haven't covered much about Twitch lately. And one of the main Twitch streamers, she is now, she's queen of the hot tub streams, but she has also now purchased an inflatable pool toy company. So Amaranth is now, I mean, this is the thing to do because she's probably very business savvy because you look at how she runs her channel. She knows how to make money, right? She hides that she's married because she knows the audience she's playing to. I mean, just all these things that she does, it's all business to her. This is another thing. She says that she bought a inflatable pool toy company, which she has an inflatable pool in her set, right? So she can sit there and promote her company while she's streaming and making money, doing pornography. It's quite
Allegedly.
the Twitch win-win.
Excuse me.
Allegedly.
She's just chatting.
Just chatting with people. Okay, yeah. Private video chat. Whatever. I mean, whatever Twitch they do. But this is the kind of thing that they're promoting on Twitch now.
Well, here's the thing. It's a good move on her part, would be my guess, because not only will she own this company, Brian, this is a big move for influencers, them getting into brands and products. If you're a large enough influencer, imagine how many, by the way, I'm sure many of the individuals that watch her on stream aren't probably in the best condition to be swimming anyway. Well, no, but it's not just inflatable in pools. It's a toy company. So the people that make the floats and the things like that. So I assume most
pool paraphernalia, accessories, and inflatable toy products.
Yeah, and then propane accessories. So I assume most of the folks watching her probably are not suitable to even be in a pool with a float. But for those that are, Brian, and fit whatever the ramifications that was required, you're a big Amaranth fan. Go out and buy a $25 pool float that's got Amaranth's name on it, and you're good to go. If you can fit in a pool and fit in a pool float, which was kind of what I was leading to. Many of our audience probably would sink to the bottom in a pool float. But what are you going to do?
Well, and the company, if you look, like this company, she says it makes about $15 million a year in revenue. So, and then he says, it's gone down because of the pandemic, because I guess people aren't going out to public pools and maybe going out in the lake as much and as often. But she's definitely using her money wisely so that she'll be well off. And plus, diversing out of advertising on Twitch is probably one of the wisest things. If you look at how Twitch advertising and everything's kind of been up and down, especially for her. She was one of the first people. She got banned for a bit, had issues. I mean, it pops up in the news about her every couple months, something happening. Better to, while the money's coming in, diverse, because as you've seen, platforms make changes where they don't allow certain things happening anymore. There's a lot of issues that can happen.
And the other interesting thing to note here, and this is not a new move, but streaming on Twitch and making YouTube videos for most is not a career for the rest of your life. You're going to get in, you're going to have a short window. Now, the definition of a short window, it varies on the individual, but you have a short window to make a lot of cash. And some of these people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a month. Now, that's not that's not forever. They won't be doing that for the next 30 years. But then you turn around and invest that into something else, and now you don't have to work ever again once your days of streaming on Twitch or making YouTube videos are gone. And that's a trend that you're seeing with more of the savvy influencers. Early on, Team Art was one of the big YouTubers that did it. Woody's Gamertag was another one that did it. Jericho, another YouTuber, Twitch streamer. These guys branched out and started doing other things, and now they don't. Now they all of them
in companies,
video game building companies. Yeah, Dr. Disrespect's doing the same thing. He's building a video game
off his YouTube fame.
Yeah, that's what Green Man's doing.
And that's the thing you got to do. And I think a lot of this kind of upheaval in so many markets, the video game industry especially, is making people realize, well, you can't rely on Twitch bringing your lifetime of income. There's people that have been banned from Twitch. There's people jumping back and forth between YouTube and Twitch. It's just, there's a lot of upheaval. And I think that for these kind of people who have that money now, just invest it. Because her 5 years from now, is she still going to be streaming? You never know. It might be some scandal happens and she's out. I mean, there's lots of things that can happen.
Exactly. So, interesting to see her and many others. She's not alone making this shift and, I guess invest or what's the word I'm looking
for?
Diversifying their portfolio. Precisely, Brian. Yeah. That's what I was looking for.
So, and here do you want to go some more random, or do you want to go on to a certain topic?
I don't care. Whatever you want to do. You're in charge here.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and jump down and talk a little bit. We'll catch up on some past topics. So Activision-Blizzard, let's catch up on some things that have happened in the past week. There's still a train wreck happening there. The company is still slowly falling apart. And the California DFEH appeals court has denied to intervene into this case, into that Activision Blizzard settlement. So,
Good.
so they're not going to get involved. Also, we've got people leaving the company. Senior game designer for World of Warcraft, Johnny Cash, has left recently, and he had been there for quite some time. And a lot of this, some of it could be, but he's not that old. Honestly, he's not. He's not at a retirement age.
Hey, looks like a young guy. Looks like he's in his late 30s, maybe early 40s.
40s, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, for him, he's going off to do something else. I think that there's just so many issues that people that don't want to deal with all the drama are just like, I'm out. Because I probably feel like he's, if you wanted to stay and deal with all that and be in that drama, you would. I think a lot of the people that just want to go and help make a cool game are leaving. Because it doesn't feel like it's about that at the moment.
Well, and for World of Warcraft, let's be honest. I mean, I'm sure that fire, that enthusiasm is probably sailed.
I mean, the whole enthusiasm of the game has dwindled quite a bit.
Yeah.
Another thing, Raven Software. So those are the people that make Call of Duty. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
They're more the Call of Duty developers.
Yep.
They're striking for the third week because of they claim that it says third week as Activision-Blizzard claims that they're listening. So they're of course they got to put a little bit of bias here. They've been answering and making changes and things, but of course according to Ryder, they're not. But this is 3 weeks in a row for that. So it was all we're looking at Blizzard stuff. Now the Activision side is having non-work as well. And it's the same it's that ABK, a better ABK Workers Alliance. Just trying to, it seems like they're trying to dismantle the company from the inside is what it really feels like they're trying to do.
Well, that's the old SpongeBob quote, right? Dismantle it from the inside out. I mean, I've said this before. I do not see a situation in which Activision and Blizzard don't split back up.
Yeah.
I just
here's another one. So PC Gamer, of course, wrote an article today talking about how
not the same guy.
Tyler Wilde, different person. How Blizzard failed the women who worked for it, according to 3 who left.
What about the CEO that they promoted, the woman that they promoted to run the company, and then she left?
Who left? Yeah.
3 months in, what about her? Did she fail the women that worked there too?
Well, I mean, if you really look at it, she did, because who would be the person most encouraged to make change in the company would be the person affected by it, right?
Yeah,
and they're not. So there's also some fallout happening from companies that have deals with Blizzard. For this case, Lego is now pausing their Overwatch 2 toy set because of all the conflict going with Blizzard.
Jesus.
So they're not even going to put their product out for Overwatch 2 because of the scandal. So
damn,
this is this is their I think Overwatch 2 Titan or whatever it's called. It's it's a decent little box set. So they're saying release delayed, but I'm assuming they're waiting for people to kind of get over it.
I would assume the same, and I find that interesting, Brian, because I want to shift gears a little bit here to Microsoft, because Phil Spencer earlier this week, he was asked about this, as many other large companies. Sony's been asked about it, and many other companies, and he essentially said that he said a couple of things about it, but his whole point was, I took away was, it's not really our problem.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I took away. He was talking about more about directly Xbox, and again, they want to say, well, what is your relationship with Activision? And I don't know.
Well, and here, because they're trying to prevent a Gamergate, the whole Gamergate thing.
Of course, 2012 or 2014 all over again, yeah.
And here they say, they said it was using anonymity for evil reasons, protecting people's identities. Spencer, he said here in a quote, "We are not a free speech platform." So they pretty much, you don't have the right to say whatever you want on their platform, which is true. They had the right to set the standard. But they said, for what they consider their social network, they don't consider a free speech platform. So you're not going to be able to go there and say whatever you want, which is which is expected. Just like in a job, when you go somewhere, you can't say whatever you want. There are restrictions on what's acceptable to not get fired. Like in a community where you could get kicked out. He does this. There's the full interview. I would encourage people to go check out the full interview of this. If in the article that we link, actually, I'll put a copy of that as well for people that want to read the whole thing.
And this is the quote I was looking for. He said, this was him, I believe he spoke with the New York Times, a wonderful, illustrious publication. He said, the work we do specifically with a partner like Activision is something that obviously I'm not going to talk about publicly. We have changed how we do certain things with them, and they're aware of that. But this isn't about us as far it is Xbox. Virtue shaming other companies. Xbox's history is not spotless. And that was the quote I was looking for, because that is precisely what I'm glad Philip Spencer said. All of these individuals, all of these companies throwing stones and throwing shade at Activision.
They're pointing and pointing here, pointing there. Oh, look at those guys. Shame on them.
Yeah, it's complete and utter nonsense. And I give Philip Spencer over at Xbox a huge prop for saying this is not Microsoft. This is not Xbox's place to virtue shame another company.
Yeah.
We've got our own issues. We've had our own issues, as every company ever has had, from the best companies in the world to the worst companies in the world. And I'm glad that he said that Xbox should not be virtue shaming other companies, which is great. They shouldn't be. No company should be.
And I did put a full link to that article if you want to see, because these are some things that he's discussed in a much longer, broader article. Yeah. And so we have a link to that he wrote about the metaverse, but he talks about a lot of these things in it. Here, let's talk about some other things that he did say, because he made a lot of quotes this week.
Yeah, it's a big article.
People noticed. Yeah. So first of all, he wants we could talk about. See, there's an article in here that discusses why the Game Pass was renamed. We have discussed that in here. If you want to read more into Microsoft's actual explanation, a lot of it for them claiming that the confusion was, Xbox Game Pass for PC confused people because they're like, do I need an Xbox? For people who are into gaming, that is a real thing. Xbox is a specific device on a platform. It is not the platform now. It's no longer the platform. And so I think that, that does clear up. There's no sinister or anything weird happening in the background. They just wanted to take the word Xbox out, which kind of confirms some of the things that we've been saying here of moving forward with the Game Pass, that being their primary thing, the platform being the primary thing, and not so much those hardware devices, because those things are, as they found, difficult to get out when the world's not working exactly as we're used to.
Yeah.
And then he talks about bans for players and how he feels like those should follow players around. And I'm not sure if you have a real opinion on this, because depending on what you're banning for, it's kind of like what they do in China with the whole
social credit score. Yeah,
a social credit score system. In gaming, it would be the same thing. We kind of have it with Steam. I mean, if you have a VAC ban, that covers a lot of games on your account. You have the ability to create a new account and not have that VAC ban anymore, right? But this right here, he wants it to follow you everywhere, so that you have a central ID that then has all of your record on it.
I've got thoughts on both sides of it, and I don't necessarily have. I don't think I have an opinion one way or the. I do have an opinion, as always, but the VAC system is for cheating, from what I understand.
Yes,
it is not for harassment and things of that nature. I don't think. I could be wrong. So for blatant cheating, I don't think it's a bad idea. Now, this would be more incumbent upon the anti-cheat companies to develop some sort of ban list and share, like, for example, Easy Anti-Cheat or whatever should, identify a user and say, okay, this user is banned
across all platforms, right?
Yes, similar to what a VAC ban would be. Now, where it gets hairy, Brian, is, okay, you said some stuff, maybe you said some mean words. I don't think anybody would ever do this, but maybe you said some mean words to somebody on the internet and you get banned from a game, and now you're banned from playing everything because somebody got butthurt over something that you said. That I'm absolutely 100% against. For serial offenders of cheating, there might be something there. I am just concerned that it would start as similar to the VAC system, where it's for banning and for things of that nature for cheating. And then it turns into, let's ban people that, may have said something mean on Call of Duty, called somebody a gamer word on Call of Duty, and now they can't play they can't play hundreds of online games that they may have purchased. That I'm absolutely not going to sign off on. But it is an interesting concept, though.
My problem with this, though, is where it leads. And for me, it goes to where you're going to have some sort of a verified ID account online that locks to you. That's the only way they'd be able to enforce it. And I don't know that I want to have an account, because this is what they've been pushing for. Remember some of the other articles we covered in the past month, 2 months? There's one I remember that was kind of talking about this, having some sort of a, universal online identity, so that then they could, verify that you have, they can verify your age, verify these, but this would be one of the things that they would use it for is, okay, that ID is locked to you. Now they can see what you have access to and what you don't have access to. I'd rather have, because if you do it at the vendor level, let's say all of these anti-cheat companies start sharing information, what are they really sharing? They don't really have anything. Once that person
be machine ID
and all
or
that
something
spoof,
like that.
but that's spoofed anyways in most of the anti-cheat. So most
That's
of it's irrelevant anyways. The only way they're going to truly make this work, which is the reason I don't like it, is because they're going to have to go with a system where you verify your identity and it's truly locked to you. They're doing, and that creates a whole verified identity. It goes down a road that I know they want to go down that really scares me, because I see where it's going. Universal ID, I just don't feel like it.
No, I don't agree with that either. And it sounds like maybe the first step here, Brian, is that maybe Microsoft just needs to do this internally for them.
Yeah.
So that
make it so that for all of your anti-cheat on the whole Xbox platform is a unified ban.
Similar to VAC.
That would cover that's similar to VAC. Each one can have their own if they want to start sharing that. But the standards have to be the same. You can't have where one system is like, oh, they said something hurtful, now you're banned across everything. They'd have to come up with so many standards and expectations is exactly how this thing works to make it go forward. Otherwise, you'll have one company out of California that's banning people for saying words that offend them, and then you'll have Texas who bans, if you threaten somebody's life, they'll ban you. Well, are those the same thing? You hurt somebody's feelings over here, you threaten somebody's life over here, but you get the exact same ban of the system. That's where it would end up going. They have to come up with a set of standards of who's going to be able to submit bans, and what's the standard to be able to get on that list.
So with that all being said, I think in a perfect world, something like that could be very useful, but knowing how a system like that will be abused and knowing how there will not be the policing of it will probably not be, I'll borrow one of their words, Brian, fair and equitable. I don't think that a system like this would be good for gaming at all. So that's why I said I can see both sides of it, but I imagine this would just become nothing more than a total witch hunt against individuals who, may say a gamer word or two online, and they find themselves locked out of every single game that they own, which of course would be infuriating, to say the least.
Yes. So one final thing that kind of got noticed is him talking about how the Game Pass isn't supposed to replace game sales. And I think that, kind of, but Netflix has really replaced purchasing of movies, right?
It has.
And there's really not, there's not a market for people going out and purchasing DVDs like there used to be.
But see, I think there's an interesting thing to note here. Unless you're weird, how many times do you watch a movie? Once, maybe
I watch
twice?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's your average person.
Now, if it's a classic, like, for example, every Christmas you watch Frosty and Rudolph and all that stuff. But for a movie, you watch it once, maybe twice if you're really, really into it. So for the Netflix approach kind of works because you go and you stream a movie, and then when it disappears from the catalog, you probably don't ever notice it because
you don't really care. You've already seen it.
You've already seen it. but it's so much different with video games because you can, I can go out to my living room right now, Brian, turn on my Xbox 360 is not hooked up. Well, maybe it is. I can turn on my Xbox 360 and pop in a game that I purchased, 10 years ago. So that's where it's a little bit different. And I don't disagree with you on your Netflix analogy, but the more longevity, how many times do you just play a video game once? And when I say once, I don't mean just beat it. A lot of these games, you play for like
5-10 minutes, and then you're like, either you like it or you don't.
Exactly.
They either have me for 5 minutes or they have me for days.
And there's a lot of games that have a forever ongoingness. Skyrim, Fallout, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption. You can play these games. You can complete the campaign and play the game for years. People in Skyrim are still playing off of year-old saves. Yeah, because it's just fun to go around and do whatever. So it's a little bit different with gaming, and that's why I do agree with him that it can't necessarily completely replace gaming unless, now, fortunately for Microsoft, they've got so many good internal IPs with the purchase of Bethesda that they don't have to worry about this. But as I've mentioned, you're in the middle of a campaign on some game on Game Pass, and then you wake up one day and the calendar is switched over and the game is gone. That's got to be pretty freaking frustrating.
Well, okay, but here's one other correlation that I can kind of see is the person that's really dedicated. Let's say they're a super fan of that movie, right? Or whatever, the thing that they're enjoying. They're going to go out and buy the director's cut. They're going to buy a version of that movie, even if it is on Netflix, because they're a fan of it. And maybe they want to have the enhanced edition. I think that's more like the person in the video game who, for instance, my wife, she really likes that Sniper Elite game. Well, she owns it, even though it's on Game Pass, because there's various things that she gets for owning it as well. And if they ever take it off, she doesn't lose it, right? I just think that there still is, there are people that go out and buy movies still, the super fans. And I think that those are the same people that still go out and buy a video game because they want to own that video game no matter what, even if it drops off their system. I still think they correlate pretty closely.
And I think there definitely is some correlation there. I don't think we've seen the full impact of it yet because it hasn't been out long enough that games have been on there for a long time and then disappear. I think once for example, when a big show disappears from Netflix, like I think The Office is gone on Netflix and it's on Peacock now. That was a big deal when that happened. A lot of people were upset. And I haven't seen that yet with Game Pass. I haven't seen that large title that a lot of people were playing that just disappeared overnight. When that happens, I think maybe you'll have people looking at it and going, "Oh, okay, maybe this wasn't."
Well, they usually offer a sale on that day, though, too. They offer whenever a game goes off, they offer like 30 to 50% off, so you can buy it, and because they usually have an agreement, and that makes sense for the person who's selling the product or the company that's selling the product. Because they can get all those purchases on the way out the door, and then probably in a year they'll add it back again to get all these people interested. Then they'll take it off for a year, offer the 30 to 50% discount again, and keep cycling that until they just leave it on there permanently. It's one way to get people to purchase the game and kind of get double sales out of the whole thing. You're making your subscription cost from whatever they're giving you for having it on Game Pass, and you also get the sales.
He said that transaction, referring to somebody buying a game, is bigger than subscription. Subscription is growing faster just because it's relatively new, and with Game Pass, we were one of the first movers in that space, but the transaction business is very large. We still sell physical discs, so he's not even referring to digital copies. And again, every town, Brian's got a GameStop, and if it doesn't have a GameStop, it's got a Best Buy, a Walmart, or a Target that all are littered with still physical copies of games. So even though I think for a decent chunk of people, maybe looking at Game Pass is very lucrative, but I think for a lot of other folks, getting the physical copy is still kind of what they want to do. And according to Spencer, and again, he's got this insight better than we do, that's still a very, very large part of their business. And I think it's supplemented with Game Pass, not in lieu of Game Pass. I think that's the key. For example, you can't buy movies on Netflix. The only option is to stream. There's no option to purchase. Amazon does that. You can rent and then buy, or stream and then buy a movie. You can do that. And maybe that's kind of more what Xbox is doing than Netflix, where it's strictly a streaming platform.
Well, so you had mentioned GameStop. Believe it or not, there is some GameStop news.
I saw this.
GameStop is planning to create an NFT and crypto marketplace this year.
Dude, their stock exploded this week because of this.
Oh, after that?
Yeah. And I think
a lot of this ties. One thing really quickly, the previous article talking about purchases, I think one thing that will probably save some of the physical copy purchases is once they get to having it be like an NFT. Your purchase of the game is some sort of something on a blockchain that shows that you own the game, and then you can play it on various platforms. I mean, that's what will save, I think, physical copies or buying the game. I don't see, and this makes sense for them, because if this is where the market's going and people aren't buying physical copies of games, well, you got to go to what they are buying that you can offer. And I assume this is going to be a digital marketplace. I just don't know how you could sell NFT and crypto in the store, but I'm sure they'll have something.
Well, when this news came out, I think it was late last week, their stock jumped up to $155 a share, and it's been steadily going down since. Still way higher than it should be for a company that is essentially siphoning money and realistically should be out of business. But that's what they're planning. Here's the thing. They've got the name recognition. And by the way, they announced their 2021 earnings, Brian. GameStop made over $5 billion last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're still doing it. They're still on the corners. They stayed open.
Yeah.
Which during a time like this is pretty impressive. A lot of places have closed down.
Yeah. So it is definitely impressive. And they still got that name recognition, so they can do their pivot and things like that. But I'm glad I don't spend multiple times a day checking the price of my GameStop stock anymore. I'm glad that I'm out of that.
Yeah, not have to worry about it. Well, correct. Okay, so they've got NFTs and crypto they're going for. Let's cover a couple of things before we close out of here. There's some other NFT, blockchain, crypto news.
Sure.
First of all, Hi-Rez this is a rumor, so don't hold me to it if it does end up being wrong, but they're working on a new blockchain-based game in the Smite IP, and they're calling it Cluckers.
Huh. Wait, Cluckers?
So
what is about isn't the birds from Realm Royale?
Well, but that's who, isn't it? Don't they make?
They do. That's what I'm. They're also Realm Royale. Yeah. Huh.
But I think they made Realm Royale with assets, I think, from Smite.
Perhaps.
So that chicken's probably kind of mixed between the two products now. And now we've got Square Enix, who, they're talking positively about blockchain and, for play to earn and self-sustaining game growth potential.
Which is where I think it needs to be, right?
Play to earn is something that, if you can make gaming profitable, that's how you make it to where people can game, especially when they're stuck at home.
Well, I think you're looking at, when I look at play to earn, I'm thinking of play to get in-game things. I think that's what they're referring to.
Well, but some of these things are doing it with Bitcoin. I mean, they're doing it. They're the things that you're earning in game because of whatever you're doing for the system. You tell me how they're making money or how this is at all, but sometimes they're earning various forms of currency that they can spend in game. But you know what? They also can sell outside of the game things in the game for this currency and then extract it out to some sort of a Bitcoin. So that's really, I think, the way they're going is coming up with a way, because who was the first person who tried to do this? I would say it's Blizzard. Remember when they started with Diablo, they created that store where you could sell in-game items.
Yeah, what was it called?
Well, it was Diablo, whatever. I don't remember the thing, but it was
they shut it down, right? Because it was a marketplace, and there was a couple of times in which they had to stop. They had to stop it because there was glitches and exploits and things like that.
Yeah, farmers were just gathering stuff and selling it in mass, and it was a pretty cool thing. You could make some decent money doing that. Now, how can you prevent that from being abused? Blockchain, right? That's really what it comes down to, putting something in stone of what you earn, so that if you have something that's supposed to be truly valuable in a video game, then it's something that you can turn around and sell to somebody, because it's not something you can generate and create and spam, because that's what's killed a lot of things with like New World. Was the amount of duping that destroyed the economy in game. People don't realize how important in a game the economy is on MMOs. You're starting to discover it, because imagine if those things doubled in price, tripled in price. There's something you had to buy. It's way out of your range now, and you're just trying to play a game. So I think here, that's what I get out of play to earn. I mean, they may have other things that they consider, but whatever they're doing to make it so that the person is earning something, and that's thing, it could be a NFT, it could be something that carries outside of the game with you, whatever it is. I think that would probably make a lot of these things work, because they want it to where if there's something that has a supposed value, got to lock it down. And right now, things in video games don't have a real value unless it's in a marketplace with a set price, like the Steam marketplace with skins.
True.
Anything you do outside of that usually falls apart because of corruption and lack of oversight. They have to have something that's totally locked down, and I think then you could have it to where people are playing a game and probably be able to make a living playing the video game, playing the system.
Very true.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I'm all up for that. If you can make money playing a video game, do it, even if it's repetitive. Whatever it is.
Huh.
And
that is very interesting.
And then Sega, of course, put in their 2 cents, and they said they will not proceed with NFT plans if. Now, it's funny they sentence like, we are not moving forward, but then when you throw an if in the middle, that kind of changes the possibility, if it is perceived as simple money making. So they're going to do it, is what it sounds like. But of course, if it sounds like, and how is it's perceived as simple money making. Isn't everything they do simple money making? You make a product, you sell it. How is it any more simple money making? NFTs seem like more complex money making.
Okay.
I mean, simple money making is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make a product and simply, here, you give me some cash, I'll give you the product. That's simple money making. You'd figure you'd want it to be considered simple money making, not dirty money making, not complex money making.
I have a feeling what they're not justifying what they're saying. I have a feeling what they're saying. Might be a
translation error.
I think what they're saying is they kind of see it as a scam or something. When they say simple money,
I think they're waiting to see it kind of settle out.
Yeah, I think, again, there's this notion that cryptocurrency and blockchain and Bitcoin is kind of this black magic kind of thing, and it's being used in a shyster sense or way, which there are people that are, but as a whole, the systems are not designed and built for that. And I assume that's what Sega is referring to when they say perceived as simple money making. I don't think that's the.
Yeah, they're saying. I think they're saying, well, if you're doing it just to make money, then don't do it. Well, isn't that why they do everything?
Correct.
I mean, to make money, that's the whole point of the company. That's their goal. They're saying if it's seen as just simple, it's just an odd way, and it could be that it was said in Japanese or some other language translated, and it doesn't quite come over the same to us. But I just thought that was a very odd way to say it.
It is an odd way to say it, and of course, I find it pretty interesting coming from Sega, who is essentially out of the gaming space. I mean, yes, they're still doing things, but
they're pushing. I think they're pushing to try to do some things here pretty soon, because I've been seeing Sega news.
This is what then this is what they should be jumping on and being the trendsetter. I mean, what do they have to lose? They haven't made a console since 2001 with the Sega Dreamcast. They haven't had any big games out in the last. I mean,
they've been re-releasing a lot of the old games. It's been mainly
even that
on mobile and everywhere else.
The last Sonic game that came out, I believe, was Sonic 2006. It was an unmitigated disaster. The Sonic movie was, I don't know how much of I don't know what kind of part they held in that, or if it was just a license deal. What does Sega have to lose, realistically? This would be something that I would think they should be trend-setting on, and if it works out, they'll reap the benefits. If not, they're still Sega. Who cares?
Yep, and we'll see. I think there's a lot of still being flushed out in this whole market. I don't think they really know where it's going to end up, and it's a lot of you start the internet, for instance. Look at the internet. I remember the internet when it really started becoming kind of semi-public. People started getting it a little bit. People didn't know where the internet was going to go. They didn't know what it was going to be used for. There's so many things that we are outside the realm of possibility now, of what you thought would happen then. And I think here's the exact same thing. They're trying to somehow perceive exactly how this is going to be used and how it's going to be beneficial and what's actually going to work. You know what it takes? It takes throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Because just like the internet, there's a lot of things that have started up and failed over the years, websites, technologies, everything else. But you know what? They throw the stuff at the wall, they see what sticks. So look at social media platforms right now. They're throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. The same thing with NFTs. Start making stuff that uses the technologies, see what people like. Don't get overbearing with it, but see what people like in it. I mean, that's what it
And
really comes down to. Find a use.
and that's
Because
exactly
they're forcing a use right now.
They are forcing use, and that's exactly what it's going to be, Brian. It's going to take somebody like Sega or Square Enix or Ubisoft or EA to do the trial by fire, see what works, and then everybody else, same thing that we saw with the Battle Royale craze, everybody else will jump on board once somebody finds a winning strategy. But I don't know who is going to be the first one to take that big leap. Right now, I think it's going to be Ubisoft based on their system that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. They seem to be the one that's kind of might be leading that trend, and then I think everybody will just hop on board like everything else in this industry.
Well, and one of my biggest things is I think they're missing the mark on like the whole blockchain thing of trying to set things that that won't always be permanent and setting them in blockchain. It's just the system is not meant for something. They're using it in a way when they're using a subscription service to run the blockchain. You might as well have a server. What are you really accomplishing when one company is overseeing all of your crypto, your blockchain technology? I think they're missing the point with that. They got to find where it works because they're like, oh, it works. Here's how it works in, Bitcoin. And we're going to use the exact same thing over here. I think they're going to have to find out a different way of doing it because they're forcing, a square peg through a round hole, and it's just not working. It's not going to work that way. So if you're going and looking at, the benefits of blockchain is this, but when you go pay one company just to do the blockchain in their internal servers and then provide you with the data, what are they giving you? All you're doing is ensuring that the blockchain company is mostly honest, because it'd be difficult for them to spoof it and change it, right? I mean, then why not just have them do it on their servers and just have an extra verification to quit wasting all the power doing blockchain? There's just a lot there. Like that's just the tip of the iceberg, but I think that there's a lot that they have to figure out and need to figure out what parts of it do we use for in gaming and what parts, what technology. They got to pull out the technologies that are useful and expand on them. And then that's when I think it'll really blossom.
Agreed. Could not.
But there's one more story I wanted to cover before we rolled out, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
So you remember with the Take-Two, they had done the mobile port of GTA, right? Some of those GTA ones where they did the enhanced version. They did the renewed whatever views of it. They have now purchased Zynga for $12.7 billion. And they said that there is a clear path to bring console and PC games to mobile. I think they realized they had such an issue with that really gave them a bad look when it came to their product. I wonder if this is so that when they start releasing things to PC and mobile, they have it all internal and there's no one else to blame but themselves. Because Rockstar, when Take-Two did it, made them look really bad.
They did, and Zynga is, I want to say, maybe the largest. One of the largest.
I mean, there may be another one that possibly.
In the U.S., I would say they are the largest mobile game developer and publisher. Yeah. I mean, they make Farmville. They were the big on the Facebook games back in the early 2010s. They are a massive company.
Yes, and so here I think
Words
for them,
friends,
they learned their lesson. Them. I think they learned their lesson with having a company sit here and do a port for you that doesn't really have the experience as we saw, and just kind of trying to make it happen. There's a lot of sales happening in PC games right now over consoles. A lot of people are going back to PC, and I think that for them, they realized, consoles are up in the air. If everything's going PC, like we got to be where we actually can make a port that doesn't glitch out and look worse than the original sometimes. So I think here this seems to be a follow up to that. I'm sure they've been working on it for a while, but probably their experience of bringing those games to PC and remastering them the way they did through a mobile port, it was just a disaster. But probably because internally they didn't have the experience to do it. And you know what? Zynga does. Zynga's been doing it for over 10 years. And so $12.7 billion company, Zynga has 45 days to go out and look for a better deal with a different company. This is with a go shop provision. It's not closed quite yet, but here after 45 days, we should see. It says they bought it, but I think we're on a delay for that before it's fully locked down.
Zynga, I believe, is a publicly traded company. I could be wrong on that, so I think there is a period of time.
It's like a requirement that they have to be open to get other offers.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So that's happening, and we'll see. We'll see if a lot of because they've got a lot of games, under their umbrella,
and they're big.
It could be kind of cool to see some of those go mobile.
And it's important to note their big moneymaker at Zynga is microtransactions. If not all, almost all, 99% of their archive over at Zynga are free games that make money with advertising and microtransactions. And for people to say, "Oh, that's not a big business," Zynga made $2 billion last year doing that. So,
and they do a lot. Yeah, they do a lot. So like mobile games, like they have major names: Harry Potter, Star Wars. They still have Farmville, but it's on version 3. They got Toon Blast. I mean, they got a lot of different
Words with Friends. That's them. Yeah,
Words with Friends. They've got a ton. So I think this is really, and then if you can get to where Grand Theft Auto is properly released, I have a feeling that they're going to fix that later. And
I think a lot of that has been resolved.
Yeah, but I still have a feeling that eventually they'll probably keep polishing that in the background with this
for
division.
sure. Absolutely.
And then Borderlands, their NBA game, they got so many that could work out, variations of it in mobile. And if they couldn't make a good mobile game, no one, when you get into a game that's not programmed well with mobile, right away, just things don't work right. So I think here they learned from how bad they looked with the previous port, and hopefully this gets it to where we get some cool new games out of them.
Absolutely.
All right, Rust has sold over 12 million copies now for people that are following.
Nice.
Still going strong. So I thought I'd throw that in there, but I think that's and PUBG is now free to play. It's finally happened to where so if you have never owned a copy of PUBG, you could go and download a copy on Steam now and start playing, or even on console.
Excellent.
There are some things we didn't cover. We'll talk more about China next week. Some interesting things coming out of China with some of their recent lockdowns of rules. I have some video of the Fortnite tornado that we can show next week. I know you're looking forward to that actually in play. And then some other random news. So are you ready to roll on out?
Yeah, I think so. Where can people find you on the internet, Brian?
All right. If you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, and Getter. And of course, my blog, biteoftech.com. But most importantly, go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. Go to the right-hand side and join our server on Discord. If you do that, you can subscribe to our news channel and give topics that you think we should be covering. If there's something that we talk about that maybe we've missed, or maybe there's a game that we're not even covering that you think is really relevant to what we talk about, submit a link into the news channel and we cover those. We also got a workout channel, a lot of ARC servers, a lot of stuff going on over there. Also, if you go to the website, lower right-hand side, we've got all of the audio options that you can listen to. And then if you are listening, I encourage you just to go and follow along with that particular episode. If you do that, we have links for videos, articles, everything that we refer to throughout the video and the audio form of the podcast. We have links to that in our show notes. And we do have a YouTube video player and an audio player embedded in there as well if you just want to pull up the page and listen. If you want to support us, there's infectionpodcast.com/support. We also have the support tab up top. And you heard a couple of Prime Gaming subs and got Subscribe and other ways that you can support the show. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I want to thank our friend, before we get out of here, Green Man Cartoons, for hitting us up with the resubscription here during the program. Thank you very much, Green Man. And hopefully
45 months or something crazy.
47. And
47 months. Wow.
Hopefully we'll see Green Man coming up at a convention, hopefully sooner rather
once they let him back into the States.
Yeah, well, and as long as that guy at PC Gamer doesn't get his way. All right, Brian. Thank you very much. As always, appreciate it. And we will see you next week for count them, seven full years of doing the show. Pretty remarkable. So thanks, Brian. We'll catch up with you next week.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
All righty, folks. Well, my name is Nick Craig. You can check me out at nickcraig.net for my social media stuff and nickcraig.com for my daily political antics and rantings at the Wilmington's Morning News podcast. Of course, if you missed any portion of the show, you can head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com, where you can find links, articles, show notes, videos, and all of that fun stuff. Have a great week. We will see you next time.